Quite possibly the most important person running the air show is the air boss. It's the air boss that runs the entire show from start to finish and is responsible to ensure the air show is not only entertaining but also exciting and inspirational, but also safe to the pilots flying the air show and the spectators out here watching it. Schultz Airshows has 4 of the highest FAA accredited airbosses in the industry today. Let's go behind the scenes and see how a Schultz Airshows Airboss works an air show.
Conrad now.
There are many people whose hard work and dedication help to create an exciting air show. From the dozens of volunteers who help with parking vehicles and assisting spectators, an air show announcer working the microphone, the sound technicians who work hard to make sure the public address system is in working order, to the ground operations personnel who assist with marshaling and fueling aircraft. None are more important to an air show than the air boss. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, describes the air boss as the individual with the primary responsibility for airshow operations on active taxiways, runways, and the surrounding airshow demonstration area. Every airshow in the United States is required to have an air boss with an FAA-issued letter of authorization to perform his or her duties as an air boss, with the highest and most experienced air bosses given a recognized air boss with multi-venue authorization for a complex air show. All 4 of Schultz Airshows Airbosses are FAA approved and have a recognized air boss with a multi-venue authorization for a complex air show. Our air bosses are payrolled personnel, not subcontractors. Air shows need to be very wary of other air bosses that don't perform their own work and use subcontractors. This is not only dishonest, but also dangerous. The air boss work for any air show typically begins several months before the air show takes place. The air boss must work with the local FAA Flight Standards District Office to ensure the proper paperwork to conduct an air show is filed in a timely and complete fashion. This includes, but is not limited to, requests for waivers to allow aircraft and their pilots to operate outside of the normal operating envelope as defined by the FAA to secure sterile airspace around the airshow location. All civilian and military aircraft and their aircrews must abide by rules set by the FAA with regards to the safe operations of aircraft when they are below 10,000 feet. At or below that altitude, aircraft airspeeds must be 250 knots or less. Aerobatic flight cannot occur without waivered airspace or an FAA-approved aerobatic box. Parachute jumping must be conducted under waivered airspace, if not at an already approved drop zone. The air boss must also work with the airport operations, the airlines, and others, so that the air show has a minimal impact on their operations. With air shows in complex airspace, additional coordination must be done with TRACON, Tower, and other airspace managers. Our air bosses also work with frequency allocation managers at the FAA and FCC for gaining the frequencies needed to conduct airshow operations safely. This takes several months of coordination prior to the event dates. The airspace in which the airshow takes place must be closed to all pilots and aircraft except those participating in the airshow. To do this, the air boss applies for a temporary flight restriction, or TFR, to safely conduct an airshow. This TFR, in a physical sense, is a large cylinder of sterilized airspace around the airshow location. The size of the cylinder can be anywhere from a 3 to 5 nautical mile radius from the airshow center point, up to as high as 15,000 feet above the ground. Some airshows, due to their location and elevation, require a TFR that's even larger in diameter and higher in altitude due to the decrease in aircraft performance because of a higher density altitude and elevation. The airshow's TFR also designates the dates and times in which the airport and airspace is to be closed to all air incoming and outgoing traffic, except for airshow participants or commercial air traffic, if the airshow is conducted at a major airport. Other airports or airfields within the TFR are also advised to shut down operations. Airshow TFRs are typically published a week or more in advance of the airshow dates to give pilots a heads up to avoid the airspace. They will also appear on the NOTAM reports or notices to airmen. It is commonly stated that while a TFR is active, the airport or airfield is closed and the airboss owns the airspace. Without a TFR, it would be unsafe to conduct airshow operations.
For air shows, you typically have to secure a certificate of waiver from the FAA. What the waiver does is it authorizes certain aircraft operations to deviate from regulations under conditions that ensure an equivalent level of safety. A common FAR or Federal Aviation regulation that will be waived at almost every air show is one that allows performers to zero out their altimeters. That way everybody knows that we're all playing on the same sheet of music and the ground really is at zero.
Once airshow weekend approaches, the airboss is one of many individuals who arrives before the airshow participants. Airshows that feature the United States Air Force Thunderbirds, the United States Navy's Blue Angels, and the Royal Canadian Air Force's Snowbirds, and any of the single-ship tactical demonstration teams have very specific requirements set out in their support manuals that the airboss must be on site when the teams conduct their survey flights. Those survey flights are conducted under an active TFR filed by the airboss and airshow and require the airboss to observe the teams, typically as an additional pair of eyes for added safety. For an airshow taking place over a Saturday and Sunday and featuring one of these three major jet teams, this means the airboss must be on site no later than Thursday morning, since many of the airshow participants start arriving on that day. On Friday morning, the airboss holds the first of several mandatory pilot briefings. These pilot briefings are critical to the safety of every performer, volunteer, and patron at the airshow. Held behind closed doors and without members of the public or media in attendance, the airboss conducts a briefing that includes the day's airshow schedule, the weather forecast, the TFR times, airborne procedures including rules and radio frequencies, the layout of the show site including the aerobatic box and holding locations, all emergency procedures, and any items that will help mitigate risk and make the airshow safe. The briefings are attended by all airshow pilots or team representatives, the airshow announcer, at least one member of our ground operations team, pyrotechnicians, first responders, representatives from the FAA, the airshow director, and any other essential personnel. Airshows held over water or at other off-field locations require representatives from marine operations, such as dive crews and Coast Guard personnel, to attend the safety briefing. These briefings also take place on Saturday and Sunday, and in addition to going over each day's activities, the Schultz Airshows Airboss also takes the time to go over what went right and what needed improvement over the previous day. We take the time to present the briefings in a very understandable way, with knee boards, performer briefing cards, and diagrams, and other visuals that are necessary for the safe conduct of airshow operations. Many other airbosses don't even take the time to detail the operations visually via handouts and a computerized presentation daily. Schultz Airshows Airbosses do. That is one of the main reasons why FAA FSDO office inspectors and managers consider airbosses from Schultz Airshows to be at the top of the pyramid. Safety is at the utmost priority, and any airshow pilot or participant who does not attend the pilot briefing does not fly in the airshow.
I do not want you climbing into a cockpit, guys, if you're not 100% mind on task and 100% focused on what you're doing. Let us know if you got a flex, and we'll flex the schedule. Pat will let us know, and we'll work it real time as we need to. But we
Tell me, say, Anthony, I'm not going to do that today. That's okay. If you don't have a warm fuzzy about something, stand down. Don't go near the airplane today. Get your game face on. Get your head on straight. Be ready to fly the airplane today. Once you get back, the airplane's in the chocks and shut down, you can go out to the crowd and mingle, be the rock stars that you guys are, sign autographs, take pictures.
Dehydration and heat concerns is going to be warmer today and much more humid. And if you've never performed it before, don't try it here. Everybody needs to be 100% on focus and 100% mind on task and think safety. If you're not feeling good, don't climb into the cockpit. Stand down. You fly tomorrow. And notify the airboss, the ground folks, and security of anything unusual.
Once the pilot briefing is over and the airboss has addressed all the questions and concerns from the airshow's participants, the airboss will head to a trailer or platform at stage center and take position in a location where he or she can view the entire airshow stage. At many larger airshows, the Schultz Airshows Airboss is assisted by at least one or two additional airbosses to provide additional sets of eyes and assist the airboss in deconflicting aircraft, people, or vehicles on the ground, and in turn provide an added layer of safety for the airshow. What may look like chaos to the average spectator is a well-organized and scripted routine that was briefed earlier in the morning. With a long-range UHF and VHF radio and noise-canceling Bose headsets at his disposal, the airboss will give commands to airshow pilots that include a clearance to take off, a clearance to enter the airshow display airspace, a clearance to land and taxi back, and the all-clear for parachute teams to jump. In essence, the airboss is the air traffic controller for the airshow, but only during the times in which the airspace is closed to all traffic except the airshow participants. At locations where scheduled commercial air traffic will arrive or depart the airshow airfield during an airshow TFR, the airboss is not permitted to direct non-airshow participants, such as a commercial airliner. He or she must relinquish control of the airspace to the control tower to direct the non-airshow participants into and out of the airshow TFR. Once the aircraft is out of the airspace or safe on the ground, only then will the control tower give the airspace back to the airboss so that the airshow can resume. Good relationships made well in advance of the airshow dates by the airboss and local ATC can keep the airshow flowing smoothly and with minimal interruptions. Schultz Airshows Airbosses are experts at time management and have excellent communication with our ATC airshow site partners. While the airboss conducts the airshow, he or she is joined on the stage by the airshow announcer, along with representatives from the FAA and other essential personnel. What sets Schultz Airshow Airbosses apart from the others in the airshow industry are the tools at the airboss disposal. Schultz Airshows has adopted many pieces of portable technology that give the airboss a wealth of information in real time without having the control tower relay pertinent information, such as winds or any nearby air traffic. At every Schultz Airshows event, the airboss relies heavily on a portable weather station that provides information such as wind speed and direction, the altimeter, density altitude, outside air temperature, dew point, and much more. By being able to provide immediate and real-time weather conditions to the airshow pilots and performers, the airboss in turn helps the performers fly a much safer airshow. The weather station is supplemented by a portable computer that combines a weather radar and an air traffic monitor powered by ADS-B. This provides two additional layers of security for the airboss, as the weather radar can detect different types and intensity of precipitation, as well as the location of any nearby lightning strikes. While the ADS-B air traffic monitor provides the airboss the ability to track any potential TFR violators well before a control tower can advise the airboss before they are reported to the FAA representative on site. The ADS-B air traffic monitor also enables our airbosses to see charter and commercial traffic inbound to the airport, as well as medical and police helicopters needing to transition the airspace in order to keep the show flowing smoothly and on time. While a TFR is in effect and provides a sterile cylinder of airspace for all airshow participants, the invisible stage on which the airboss conducts an airshow is called the aerobatic box. Depending on the show location and the airshow acts appearing, an aerobatic box can range anywhere from 3,000 feet to as long as 2.5 miles or more, with a width exceeding half a mile or more and as high as 15,000 feet above the ground. This rectangular cube of airspace is where all the aerobatic airshow flying takes place in front of the spectators. It is the airboss's responsibility to help define the boundaries of the aerobatic box, and it's up to the airshow to lay out markers to define parts of the box, including the corners, and ensure the aerobatic box is void of all non-essential personnel. Many of these corner boundaries can be natural features, such as a lake or a group of trees, or even a man-made structure, like a small building or the intersection of two closed roads.
It's a place in the air where all the performers and the participating aircraft, they can go ahead and perform their maneuvers. And each aerobatic box, it's different for each show layout. It all depends. This aerobatic box is defined by this tree boundary back here. But no two shows are alike. Each show's aerobatic box can be a different size, different shape, depending on the performers that are there.
Within the aerobatic box are up to 3 marked parallel lines indicating 500 feet, 1,000 feet, and 1,500 feet from the spectators. Many of these locations will use runway edges or center lines marking these show lines from the spectators, and others will put up to a half-mile of white tarp to mark these lines. Air shows over water will use large buoys to show the 500-foot and large boats to show the 1,000-foot and 1,500-foot show lines. The airboss will direct airshow pilots to fly along these lines, if needed, and will advise if a pilot appears to be flying too close to the crowd or too far away. Also located within the aerobatic box is an object that denotes the location of the show center point. Air shows held at airfields typically use a large trailer or object whose color contrasts widely from the surroundings. Air shows held over water typically will utilize a large Coast Guard cutter or a similar vessel whose color contrasts significantly from the water. All these critical points and markers in and on the aerobatic box are described in detail during the morning pilot briefing. Without an aerobatic box, an air show cannot take place. Our airbosses take the time well in advance of the air show to make certain that these markers are in place when we arrive on site, so that we can check the location for accuracy prior to the arrival of any air show performers.
One of the biggest lifelines we all depend on, everybody doing air shows, is the Airboss and the Airboss organization. And all of my faith and commitment goes into Dave Schultz Airshows because they do exemplary work by keeping me safe, keeping the air show on time, keeping everything organized, and always having a backup plan just in case something needs to be done. Thank you, Dave Schultz. Thank you, Dave Schultz Airshows, and let's go have a rocket air show.
The highly experienced airbosses at Schultz Airshows bring decades of experience at the helm of hundreds of air shows of all sizes, at military and civilian airfields, over lakes, rivers, bays, and oceans, and over racetracks, as well as air shows held after the sun sets. Safety is at the forefront of any air show, and the 4 airbosses that make up Schultz Airshows make sure every single detail is covered before any aircraft takes to the skies to entertain the crowd.